Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, what business leaders hope to see from the upcoming state legislative session. And we'll hear about a local company that takes your garbage and turns it into vegetables. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. The Arizona Diamondbacks filed suit today against Maricopa County. This over the team's insistence that the county's stadium district is responsible for $135 million in capital repairs and improvements to Chase Field. The county has said that the team is responsible for the majority of the stadium's repair and improvement costs. Diamondbacks owner Ken Kendrick said today that despite the suit, the team is not looking for money and that there are no immediate safety concerns for fans. Well, this week we're hearing from a variety of leaders and advocates on their priorities for the upcoming state legislative session, which begins next week. We start tonight with the business community, and joining us now is Glenn Hammer, President and CEO of the Arizona Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Todd Sanders, President and CEO of the Greater Phoenix Chamber of Commerce, Farrell Quinlan, State Director for the National Federation of Independent Business, and Lorenzo Sierra, Vice Chair of the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Good to have you all here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Glenn, we'll start with you. What are you looking for from the legislature this session?
Well, we want to keep going down the path we've been going down. I mean, you take a look, the state has made tremendous progress. It seems like every other day we've got another announcement for a new company that's moving here or is expanding. We've become one of the most competitive states economically. We did some great things last year on education, Prop 123, $3.5 billion of new money into our K-12 system over a 10-year period. We made a lot of progress. The Achilles heel of the state, though, is the initiative process. And we think that in addition to focusing on these other areas where we'll continue to make improvement on our tax, tort, regulatory, and education systems, we're going to have to tackle the initiative reform process. We dodged a bullet on Prop 205, thanks to the leadership of the governor and county attorney Bill Montgomery and Sheila Polk. We weren't so fortunate when it came to 206.
What are you looking for from the legislature this session?
Well, I agree with Glenn. I think that we've seen some incredible strides in the last few years, and it really put us in the catbird seat nationally. I think in addition to what Glenn said, certainly the initiative process, we need to stop being a test bed for crazy ideas from out of state. The other thing that I think we need to do is continue to push the needle on education. As Glenn mentioned, the Prop 123 from last year was it was a Hail Mary pass. I think what we need to do is start looking at sort of this from the standpoint of a game of inches. We're fourth and goal on a lot of areas. Workforce is a big area for us. The Chamber's economic development team talked to over 900 businesses last year with our partners. Far and away the biggest issue is workforce. So that we think is a real win that's out there for the Arizona business community.
From the small business perspective, what are you looking for?
Well, we're trying to keep things from getting out of hand. On one hand, you have Obamacare hopefully will be going away, but what will that look like afterwards? There are a lot of other things on the federal level, the overtime rule and some of the other human resources type issues are being, that pressure's coming off. But then you have, on the other hand, Prop 206 passes, and you've got the paid time off part of it. How a business actually manages that and is something that our members are very concerned about. And then you've got certain lawsuit abuse issues concerning the Americans with Disability Act that we'll be working on, and hopefully we can get that squared away.
What are you looking for? What are you hearing from your members?
Well, from the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce point of view, education is going to be the big thing. We're looking at we're a majority K-12 system right now, and by the end of the decade or start of the next decade, we're looking at being a Hispanic majority in the K-12 system. And we want to make sure that the funding is there, that the resources there for these children to be successful so that we have that quality workforce that we need to continually drive the businesses that are coming here. I think we had a great year in 2016 with some people moving their headquarters both internationally and domestically over here. And I think we're primed for growth. And I think if we look at the Hispanic entrepreneurialism, that's going to be one of the keys to our prosperity.
Glenn, you mentioned the initiative process. We all know that you guys are against the minimum wage increase. What is wrong with the initiative process? And I can hear people right now, they're saying, well, of course you don't like the initiative process. Something happened that you weren't happy with. Talk to us about this.
Well, it's a lot more than that. It's you have these out-of-state interests that came in. They dumped over $4 million on Prop 206. We believe strongly that it violates a state constitutional requirement that voters passed about 12 years ago that requires a revenue source attached to any sort of initiative. What we want to do is we certainly have a great amount of respect that we're a state that has referendum and initiatives. But we want to make sure that when things get on the ballot, first of all, that they're not spending money we don't have, and that those that are putting these things on the ballot are abiding by all of our laws in terms of the requirements for petitioners and things like that.
58% of Arizona voters approved this, something that you, I think, described as crazy. Are they wrong? Are 58% of Arizona voters wrong about
Well,
this?
I'll tell you. In terms of the minimum wage initiative, I mean, you can argue whether or not that's a good idea. I think Glenn's right. When you look at, for instance, look at the surplus we're going to have in our budget this year, $26 million. Most of that's going to be, if not all of it's going to be eaten up by the additional costs that are going to be borne by the state because of this initiative that should have impacted revenues. That's a huge problem. So I don't know that it's necessarily looking at the voters and saying you made a mistake, but it's certainly looking at the process and making sure that we do know where we do know where the markers are on the road and that people are following the rules appropriately.
Is the state required to pay those extra funds?
Well, at this point, I think they're on the hook, and I think that's the basis of this lawsuit. There is going to be an impact to the general fund, and as Glenn mentioned, that is a violation of the constitutional.
Are they required, Glenn?
Well, they are required. I mean, they are going to be required to pay these additional funds so that we could meet our requirements under state and federal law for our most vulnerable Arizonans. This was never advertised. I mean, that Proposition 206 was advertised this morning in Arizona. It would all be great, more money into workers. What was not disclosed is that this would completely ruin and take away the entire state surplus. It wasn't advertised as something that would literally force some small businesses to close and the jobs going with that.
And it's really hijacking the approach process.
But it wasn't countered as that either. We had debates on this program, and that wasn't brought up once. I mean, why wasn't this not? Why did we hear this during the campaign?
Well, I think there are so many nuances, and really, literally, as you look at this, there was so much in this that we had to wade through that you aren't going to catch everything every time. And certainly, I think going back to the rules of the road for the folks that are drafting these initiatives, that's something that they should have known and that they should have paid attention
Yeah,
to.
they have a responsibility. They came into our house and decided they're going to put this amount of money and have this type of experiment. We did wage a case against this. We didn't have $4+ million. I mean, the unions made a decision that they had the White House in the bag and that they had the United States Senate in the bag. Whoops, they missed badly. And I hope they enjoy the confirmation hearings in the next several weeks.
The idea of an increase in the minimum wage, there are those who say it puts more money into people's pockets and thus they can spend more money on the things that small business make. I don't want to get too much into Keynesian economics here, but talk to me about that.
Well, one of the things that we've heard a lot about is this fake news. I think the fake narrative that we've heard a lot about is this living wage fiction, as if people are living on the minimum wage. It's not a working wage. You have people who are going to be kicked out of their jobs. You're going to have people who no longer have jobs. Now, are they going to be able to point directly to the minimum wage as the reason why they don't have that job anymore? Probably not. The person who does get a little extra money in their paycheck will say, hey, great. But that's the problem. We don't have whole sectors of the economy don't exist anymore. When's the last time you saw a busboy at a restaurant? They don't exist anymore because they were priced out of the market. You're going to see a lot more automation. You're going to see a lot more people who never get that first job, who never go to my members, small businesses, and have them take a chance on them when they don't have any of the work experience or anything like that would say that, yes, this is a good employee. How are people going to get that first job if they're priced out of the market?
It may not have been meant to be a living wage, but in certain economic situations, it is a living wage for some. Again, is this going to be a bad thing for Arizona businesses?
Well, the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, we did not take an official stance on this. And our approach right now is wait and see, because we do know that a lot of people in our community, in the Hispanic community, are some of those lower wage earners. And we would like to see what's going to happen when those people have a little bit extra money to put into the economy. And let's see what happens once it starts rolling. I think a lot of what's happening here nationally and locally is a lot of wait and see. And I think a lot of us are on edge from a business community standpoint, and just about any other community you can imagine, just waiting and seeing what's going to happen over the next year.
And Ted, to that point, thinking about this a little bit differently, instead of boxing people into a minimum wage. Okay, so in Arizona, there are 8,500 cybersecurity jobs that we can't fill. Okay, so those jobs pay an average of $48,000 a year. Imagine that $26 million going into job training. Think about the difference that would make in lives of people, and that's a living wage, $48,000 a year as an average. So maybe looking at this a little bit differently in terms of this race to the bottom, but the idea to empower people with the knowledge and skills that they can develop, so that we don't have this 8,500 open cybersecurity jobs in Arizona.
There are those who say, though, that let's get to tax cuts and tax policy and those sorts of things. With corporate tax cuts, we got close to $800 million over the next 3 years on the way here. They're saying, well, there you go. You can pay for a little bit of that through this. Let's talk about tax policy. I know how I understand
Are you
the
kidding?
Chamber of
I
Commerce.
mean, that would be the absolute craziest thing to do. You're saying to businesses, on one hand, we're raising your costs, not just in terms of wages and benefits. And by the way, here's a tax increase. No way that's going to happen in Arizona. That would be terrible economic policy. If anything, we need to look at further things we could do to reduce the tax and regulatory burden on business. Thankfully, it looks like in Washington, we're going to have that opportunity to do some huge things on regulatory and tax reform.
How do you balance collecting revenue for essential services against ensuring economic vitality?
Well, we have been very responsible when we have pursued our tax reductions and doing it in a way that it's balanced and it's phased in. And look at the results. We're creating jobs. And you know, I want to bounce off something that Todd said, because it really is right on the mark. All of the chambers in the state, we want to see people do well. We want them to earn high wages, but you have to start somewhere. I started flipping burgers. I really wasn't even flipping burgers. I wasn't quite that advanced. I was the guy that put the buns in the machine. That was my first job at my local Burger King. I'd be priced out of the market now, and I don't think that's right. And 2/3 of people who start at minimum wage, in that first year, they're getting a raise. So it's not a permanent wage. It's an entry-level wage to get them into the workforce.
Farr, when you hear about the tax cuts, the corporate tax cuts over the next 3 years, that's great for corporations. What about small businesses? What do you want to see there?
Well, small businesses, because many of them, most of them, like 78%, pay at the individual rate. So that's even higher than our one of our highest corporate tax rates in the world is the American tax rate. So those need to come down. And I think what we have to start looking at is, instead of trying to cut up a shrinking or a static pie, we need to grow the pie. We need to have more economic vitality, because if you've got a growing economy, the budget issues take care of themselves. Instead, we'll be fighting about who's going to take all this surplus. We're going to do it on programs that, like we did somewhat in the last decade, which was to put temporary funds towards ongoing things, or you do it on a way that is more sustainable. That's the kind of discussion we want to have, instead of having this one where we have this austerity mindedness where it's a zero-sum game. It doesn't have to be that way. It shouldn't be that way. And I think the federal situation is improving to the point where all the wet blankets, be it the EPA or the Department of Labor or you name it, Obamacare, hopefully those will be lifting, and that people will kind of peek out and say, I can now invest.
Do you see Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act as a wet blanket?
You know, one of the things that before Obamacare came in, one of the big things that was a big sticking point for our members at the Hispanic Chamber was access to quality health care. And now that was there, of course, there's going to need a lot of tweaking on Obamacare. But I think once it comes down to brass tacks and people are going to have to say, are we going to repeal it? Well, the person that has their child on the health care isn't going to want to repeal it. The person with an existing condition isn't going to want it repealed. I think repeal is going to be a lot tougher than people think. I don't think we're going to, pass or hit the gavel on the first day of session and Obamacare is going to be gone an hour later. I think there's going to be a lot more to that.
In terms of Arizona, should the Medicaid restoration be preserved? Kids Care, should that be preserved?
We believe that should be preserved. And as far as the Affordable Care Act goes, I think when we were in D.C. last month talking to our delegation and other members of Congress, it's pretty clear that no one's going to come in on day one and just eliminate this thing. I think that the idea is it's a lot more nuanced. There are parts of this that can work. But certainly I spent 7 years at the state legislature. I would have been embarrassed, I think, to have staffed something that was as poorly crafted as this piece of legislation that essentially was just an open checkbook and all of these fill-in-the-blank spaces for something that was going to fundamentally affect a sixth of our economy. So there are things we can do to make it better. I don't think we need to throw the whole thing out.
Ted, the law is obviously a disaster. I mean, we could play semantics, repeal and replace. There obviously has to be something that's out there. I think everyone agrees that those most in need, we need to find a way to provide care. But just think, right before the election, you had the insurance markets, the Obamacare markets, surging all over the country, with Arizona leading the price increase. I heard from a lot of people that I was actually surprised to hear from, that suffered because of that. Not just incredibly rising premium prices, but deductibles and things like that. So this is something the new Congress and the new president obviously have to tackle.
I was going to say, because you're going to hear from hospitals if this is repealed and not replaced with something that will ease the burden on compensated care.
Well, the uncompensated care issue remains a very real issue. So the key will be to craft something to take the place of Obamacare, but the law itself has not worked well at all.
Yeah, we've got a question to answer is, do we want to have more government involvement in healthcare, take us down the road of the VA, if we like the way that has come out? Or do we want to maybe back the government out, give people back some of their own choices? If they want to see the same doctor, if they want to keep the doctor they had, keep the doctor you have. And it comes down to a financing issue then. When it comes to uninsured, the
uncompensated care?
No, not the uncompensated. The pre-existing conditions. There are many different ways of taking care of that. You can have risk pools. There's a number of things you can do that don't cost the multi-trillion dollars that we've already spent on this whole apparatus.
Before Obamacare, health insurance increases were going at 10% or double-digit increases year over year every year, and this was sustainable for a long time. Now, did Obamacare stop that? There was some bit of that they were showing some momentum towards that. Now, we're going to get back to the point where businesses are going to going, well, what are we going to do? We're having 15, 20% increases again, and I think we're going to be back in the same spot.
Okay, we have to stop it right there. Great discussion. Good to have you all here. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Composting is the original form of recycling, and though it's been around for thousands of years, composting is making a comeback. Producer Elisa Adams and photographer Rob McJanet introduce us to Recycle City, a Phoenix-based company that's determined to get us all composting one potato peel at a time.
Every morning, as the sun comes up, the owners and operators of Recycled City set out to change some minds. One bin of food waste at a time.
This is the biggest impact any individual can make, is by changing how they consume agricultural resources.
When J.D. Hill started this company a few years ago, his goal was simple but lofty.
I really wanted to make an impact on my own ecological footprint and everybody else's. And the best way to do that, the biggest piece of the pie, is agriculture.
He figured he could make a difference from the ground up by composting.
I'm gonna dump it right here.
On a large scale. Recycled City works kind of like a municipal trash company. You get a bucket, you fill it up with your food waste, and it gets picked up every week right from the curb. But that waste doesn't go to a landfill.
And then we compost it all. We mix it up with wood chips that we get from local landscapers. And over the course of 6 to 9 months of turning and watering, that raw material of wood chip and food waste turns into compost.
Now, composting can seem a little messy to some people, but Hill says they've taken care of the two biggest problems with home composting. There's the critters that also like rotting food.
Fruit flies can start to populate when there's air and oxygen flowing into that bin. When the bin is sealed closed, there's absolutely zero chance for fruit flies to exist. There's only one trick to our system, and that's keeping the lid sealed.
And then there's the smell.
This is just some odor preventer.
Each of their 750 residential customers gets a bag of bokashi with their weekly bin.
It's fresh spent grain.
Essentially, it's a grain that helps absorb the smell and break down the waste.
Sort of activates it.
Recycled City makes their bokashi from spent brewer's grain they get for free from local breweries. Residential composting is just part of Recycled City's game plan. Their biggest clients are commercial. Restaurants like the Pomegranate Cafe in Ahwatukee produce a lot of food waste. When Pomegranate co-owner Cassie Tolman heard about Recycled City, it seemed like it fit their ethos.
We started as an earth-friendly concept. We wanted to make sure that we were giving back to the earth. We wanted to change our little corner of the neighborhood and do something good here. So we're always looking for opportunities to recycle and be more earth-friendly.
Our commercial clients produce the bulk of the food waste that we pick up, and they don't get compost back. We're providing them a service, and they actually save money on their trash and recycling bills when they utilize us correctly.
Hill knows they have to make it cost-effective and easy for commercial businesses to compost, or they won't buy in. And Tolman says they have.
On top of every trash can that we have a reminder that we compost, and there's so many things here that could be composted. So we just put a little bin on top of every trash can, and they scrape the food waste and paper towels. Even some of our straws are compostable, so much can go into that. And that little reminder right there, it really didn't take that much.
From here to the end.
The commercial waste doesn't go to other urban farms or gardens. It comes here.
Organic spinach.
To Recycled City's farm. They grow specific crops for local restaurants made from their own scraps. Pomegranate gets sunflower sprouts.
The quality of his sunflower sprouts is definitely a big reason why we choose to use them. They're super fresh. They're never going bad. They're super juicy and green. They're exactly how they should look.
It's part of the vision that keeps JD getting up early every day and picking up a pitchfork.
My vision right now is to be a very large agricultural company, full circle, where we're taking food waste and landscape waste out of the waste stream, and we're turning that into an organic, high-quality compost used specifically for farming.
And every time you clean off your plate or sip your coffee, he'll want you to pause and think about something.
is, you know, where does your food come from, how is it grown, and where is it going when you don't eat it, or where's the tops of the tomatoes going.
If Recycled City has their way, it'll go to a compost pile
Lettuce, tomatoes,
and rise again
cucumbers,
and again
oranges, pumpkins,
and again.
some leek.
Residential customers can get free compost for their own gardens, or they can pay extra for a weekly delivery of vegetables from the city's Recycled Cities, that is, their farm. That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thanks for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station.
On Masterpiece Mystery.
So you're the girl that's keeping Sydney out of trouble, are you?
I've done something wicked, and I've never felt more alive.
You're not really defending that monster.
I'm just going to say what I believe is true.
It is not your job to play God.
Grantchester on Masterpiece.